Hey guys, so you've been there and I've been there. The party attacks, the monster attacks. The party attacks, the monster attacks. Back and forth, basic attacks. So I wanted to talk about creating memorable fights, memorable encounters. We've all been there with that back and forth. Let's avoid that. Here are five, maybe six different ways in which you can make sure that your encounter is a memorable, fun one. Don't get hung up if you forget one of these things, or don't try to do them all. If you get some of these things in, you're very likely to have a successful, fun encounter that everyone enjoys. Just do your best and try to incorporate some of these tips. Tip number one: try to draw in your party. And what I mean by that is as they approach the battle, whether it's the end of your whole campaign, or whether it's the end of a dungeon, or whether it's the end of an area, and you have some kind of encounter that you want to have a lasting impression, build it up. So it could be built up outside of the dungeon, where people in the town talk about this monster and like, oh, I heard it was this, or I heard it was that. It's got giant claws. It's got wing. Like, build it up before they get there. The other way you can build it up is throughout the dungeon, you could foreshadow what's coming. So if this thing has an acid attack, well, then you should show walls being melted. If the beast has giant claws, well, then there should be giant claw marks. If it's a vampire, then you should have coffins, or maybe the vampire has a collection of stakes from adventurers, and you find his room of like trophy stakes. You should be building it up. You should be foreshadowing what is coming. You should be drawing them in. The second thing is you want a unique design. You throw a troll at them, they're likely to know that, like, hey, fire. So that's why I would encourage you, one, to use your creative power as a DM to come up with something new. And two, they're not going to have any preconceived notions. So they're going to have to pay attention and, again, get drawn into the fight. If you throw something at them that's crazy, you're going to have their full attention. Even if you take an off-the-shelf monster, I would heighten it in some way. Change the abilities around. Give it some spin that your group has never seen before. I would encourage this monster to make an entrance. It's an entrance while being carried on a throne by its followers, or whether it's an owl bear that comes out, roars, and they're about to start initiative. You even have them roll initiative, and then boom, the real monster comes in and flattens the owlbear with one attack. And maybe that attack will be its signature attack that the group then has to watch out for, which we'll talk about in a moment. And all these rules kind of blend together. So like, they're all about creating tension, creating drama, creating surprise. These are all the things that you want. It's almost like, it's a movie. You're building up to a climactic fight, a cinematic experience. Number 3 is one of the more difficult ones on this list, and that is creating unique abilities for this creature. The game is at its heart a tactical game. It has a grid, and you want to use that, which means these abilities should be area effect, or sweeping attacks, or other things that really make the party have to adjust their normal strategies or adapt to this creature. This creature should have an impact. Whatever it's doing, your party should have to respond to it. Maybe this creature has a burrow that lets it get right up next to the wizard, or maybe it has a acid that it can lob that can stick onto a player in the back, something like that. If it's a bunch of melee fighters along with a monk that likes to stun and then they just beat away at the thing, maybe it has a static area effect that doesn't go away, that causing them to have to pull back and change up their tactics. Anything like that that causes them to not be in their normal comfort zone will create drama and will create a fun exchange. Nearly guarantee it. I don't 100% guarantee it, but I nearly guarantee. The other thing you can do that is similar to this is have unique layer or dungeon effects going on. So you could do this in combination with monster effects. Maybe even they have a synergy, or just apart from it. Rising lava that eats away at parts of the map at certain points. Maybe there's mechanical levers and things that are changing the battlefield. Perhaps the dungeon is falling apart as the battle goes on. All things that will force your players to have to change their strategies and change their risk assessments. Number 4, a rising tension. You want this to feel kind of like a movie's, I think, third act, with increasing levels of danger and threat as the battle goes on. You can even plan it out. You know, if you think that this combat encounter is going to be 4 to 6 rounds, well, maybe you take some abilities or some actions, either layer actions or monster actions, and you just place them right in where you think they should go. So, hey, round 3, he's going to do this attack. Round 5, he's going to do a heightened version of this, or he's going to do another one that's even more devastating. An example of this would be, so I use these mechs in one battle, and these mechs have an area blast that they charge up. So they charge up one round, and they give off the blast. And at first the party didn't know what's happening, and it was the lightest blast. And then they realized, and they're like, oh, right when he's charging, we need to get away, because in the next round he's going to give off a burst attack. And they're stuck in this room, and they're like, all right, well, we'll just move away when we need to. Except that as the battle goes on and the mech gets more damaged, it heightens the area effect and it reached a point where it's now encompassing the whole room. There's no escape. And when it reached that point, suddenly the party's like, forget healing. We need to change our strategy, and we need to kill this thing immediately. And that tension can be a lot of fun. And it puts it in a do or die moment, which you really want to create. Plan it out. Like, hey, I plan for round 3, some of the monsters like allies arrive. It's getting more desperate. The Lich's skeleton crew arrives. Well, we gotta kill this Lich to kill all these skeletons. Or do we change and start attacking the skeletons? Like, what do we do? It causes them to have to think about what they're doing next and adjust their strategy. Thing 5, which is dialing up or dialing down the threat. Now, this one might be the most controversial of the ones I'm saying, because this requires the DM to actively change the encounter mid-encounter. But I think the goal should really be to have the result be close. A close result is just more fun than a runaway in either direction. And I will further say that this really only applies when it's not running away in one direction or the other, either for the players or against the players. In either of these scenarios, for or against the players, I would do something different. If it's going wildly for the players, fine. They had lucky rolls, they had the right spells, they outthought you, or you designed it too weakly. You have learned. I would incorporate that into the game in a different way. Maybe it helps your party become renowned in a region. Cool. Use it as a learning experience. Try to do better next time. If it's going the opposite, and don't try to make it close. Don't add 200 hit points to your monster just because. It won't be fun. It'll just pad out a foregone conclusion. Going the other way, and the monster is wrecking your party, whether because the rolls just happen to be going that way, or because you overdid some of the special abilities. Don't try to dial that down. That won't feel like a real victory to anybody. Instead, what I would do is try to forewarn your party that they don't seem equipped for the fight. Because in reality, these characters, if they were there and they would see their attacks just not having the impact they should, or that this thing is not being stopped by their attacks, they would have the realization that, like, we might be outmatched. So in those two scenarios, that's what I would do. In those middle scenarios, that's where you can make a tweak for or against to try to make it a little closer without being unreasonable and without kind of using DM fiat too much. Let's go back to that example of, like, hey, we're putting in this special, he'll do this special attack on round 3 and this special attack on round 5. Well, if they're wrecking this monster really fast, then maybe that becomes round 2 and round 4. We just push it forward a little bit so that he gets these special attacks in a little bit earlier to help even it up a little bit. Or the opposite could happen. Hey, they're not doing very well. Like, it's going a little bit more towards the monster than I would expect. I'm gonna push these out one round. Or hey, the skeleton allies, instead of 10 of them, now there's 8 of them or 7 of them. So you just make those little adjustments to help tweak it to be a close fight, and that's what you want. I think the best fights, I mean, if you are a player out there and you're upset at me for suggesting this, then think about, well, the fights I had the most fun with, were they kind of close? So they probably were. So yeah, you want close. You want the cinematic, like, we just defeated the enemy, but the building's wired to blow. They're running out the door. Jump as the explosion happens behind them. That's what you should be going for with these encounters. That's how close, ideally, these encounters will be. And I've been surprised at how, like, without DM fiating, how often that happens when you set up the abilities to go off at just the right moments. So I had one that was the what to do before the battle. The rest are all during the battle. And the last one is the aftermath. If it's supposed to be a big climactic battle, then you should reward the players afterward. Whether it's stored rewards, like I was talking about earlier, where the town remarks and there's a celebration because they defeated the dragon, or whether it's the next room has a bunch of loot that they get. Depending on your party, they're going to respond to different rewards. I would definitely give them some of those rewards after this fight. They earned it, and it'll help be the cherry on top. I'm doing it in the negative space because I know I can put a cherry there. So it'll be the cherry on top of the delicious ice cream sundae of memorable encounters. Cool. If you have a thing that you have loved, like that has really made an encounter memorable for you, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear about that. Like, tell me, like, what helped make the encounter really memorable, or what effect you really remember. Or all right, thanks for watching. Hopefully, this will help keep you from having those I attack, you attack, I attack, you attack encounters, which are just the bane of everyone's existence. Have a great day. All right. Thanks, everyone. Consider subscribing and leave a comment about the craziest. That's it.